A drone that costs less than a used car killed 6 members of the United States military. Not a missile, not a fighter jet. A drone with foam wings, a lawnmower engine, and a GPS chip. And the most expensive military in human history had no good answer for it. That is where we are in March 2026. And to understand how we got here, you need to understand 2 things clearly. You need to understand exactly what the Shahed drone can do, what it cannot do, and what the numbers actually say about its real performance. And then you need to understand what Ukraine built to kill it, how well those systems actually work, and why the world suddenly cannot stop talking about a $2,000 interceptor drone made in a Kyiv workshop. Because the public debate around these weapons is full of either panic or dismissal. People either think the Shahed is unstoppable or they think it is a joke. The stats tell a more complicated and more important story than either of those positions. The Shahed 136 was designed in Iran and entered military service in 2021. It is 3.5 meters long. It flies at 185 kilometers per hour. It carries between 40 and 50 kilograms of high explosives. It has a range of 2,000 kilometers. Its engine is a reverse-engineered copy of a German Limbach piston engine. It makes a distinctive buzzing sound that Ukrainians immediately nicknamed the moped or the lawnmower. Its unit cost at the time of original production was somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 US. In 2025 alone, Russia launched over 38,000 Shahed-type drones at Ukraine. In September 2025, it launched 5,000 in a single month. On one single night in September 2025, Russia launched 810 drones. That is the largest drone assault in recorded history. According to analysis by the Institute for Science and International Security using Ukrainian Air Force data, during the peak months, the percentage of all Shahed-type launches that actually hit their targets ranged from 11.5% to 18.7% of total launches. If you isolate only the genuine strike drones and exclude decoys, the hit rate of those strike drones ranged from 19.5% to 32.3%. In January 2026, the strike drone hit rate was 22.26%. By February 2026, it had dropped back to 17% as Ukraine improved its defenses. A separate CSIS analysis looking at a broader dataset found that around 90% of Shaheds overall were intercepted or otherwise failed to reach their targets. So on pure accuracy, the Shahed is a poor weapon. 9 out of 10 of them either get shot down or fail before they reach a target. The Iskander-M ballistic missile reaches its target 89.9% of the time. The air-launched Kh-22 cruise missile reaches its target 94.6% of the time. Against those benchmark numbers, the Shahed looks pathetic. And this is exactly where the public misunderstands the Shahed entirely. Its power was never accuracy. Its power is the question it forces on the defender. What do you spend to shoot it down? When you fire an ASRAAM air-to-air missile from a Royal Air Force jet to shoot down a Shahed, you spend $225,000 to destroy a drone that cost $20,000. When you fire a Patriot interceptor, you spend between $1 million and $5 million. When you fire NASAMS, you spend over $1 million. When you deploy a THAAD to track it, the interceptor round costs $12 million per shot. Russia figured out that it did not need the Shahed to be accurate. It needed the Shahed to be cheap enough that shooting it down costs the defender far more than building it costs the attacker. And at 90% intercept rates, the attacker is still winning financially because the interceptor costs 30 to 300 times more than the drone. Iran transferred the technology and production licenses to Russia in 2022, shortly after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. Russia initially imported the drones directly from Iran and rebranded them as the Garan 2, which means Geranium 2. A factory was built at the Alabuga Special Economic Zone in Russia, located on the Kama River in Tatarstan, which allowed finished drones to be shipped by water directly from Iranian component suppliers via the Caspian Sea. By early 2025, that factory was producing around 170 Garan 2 drones every single day. By January 2026, Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky put Russia's actual output at 404 drones per day. Russia's stated target is 1,000 per day by the end of 2026. Now, here is the part that almost no one in the Western defense establishment wanted to admit. Those drones, as they evolved in Russian hands, got significantly better. The original Shahed ran on GPS guidance and a pre-programmed flight path, simple to jam, simple to predict, easy to detect with radar. But Russia iterated, fast. Each generation of the Garan 2 incorporated new countermeasures drawn directly from what worked and what did not work against Ukrainian defenses. By early 2026, nearly every observed Garan 2 was equipped with 2G, 3G and 4G cellular antennas, allowing the drone to navigate using mobile networks even when GPS was jammed. By January 2026, Russia had mastered using Starlink internet connections to remotely control Garans in flight. 3 of them successfully hit a moving passenger train near Kharkiv. A moving train, tracked and hit in real time using a civilian satellite internet subscription. Russian engineers then fitted captured Chinese navigation systems from CUAV technology into later variants, giving the drones high-performance GNSS modules, integrated navigation boards, multi-band antennas, and airspeed sensors that make them far more resilient to jamming than the original Iranian design. In February 2026, Ukrainian intelligence found a reconnaissance version of the Garan 2 containing a Raspberry Pi 5 microcomputer and a Chinese-made mini PC running Windows 11. This drone, built in a factory partly staffed by teenagers from a Russian polytechnic college, was running a Vision AI system on the same hardware a hobbyist buys to build a home media server. Russia also unveiled a heavier warhead Garan 2 variant with a 90-kilogram explosive payload in 2025, more than double the original Iranian load. Then came the Garan 3, a jet-powered variant capable of speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. Then the Garan 5, first deployed on January 11, 2026, with a 90-kilogram warhead, a range of 1,000 kilometers, the ability to be air-launched from Su-25 jets, and a top speed of 600 kilometers per hour. That is the original Shahed speed multiplied by more than 3. It carries a warhead more than double the original explosive payload. Russian engineers also mounted a 45-kilogram infrared homing air-to-air missile on the back of a Garan 3, apparently designed specifically to shoot down the Ukrainian helicopters that had been responsible for roughly 40% of drone kills. The weapon was adapting to kill the thing that was killing it. Russia also introduced decoy drones alongside the real ones. The Jabera and Parodia are foam and plywood constructions fitted with Lüneburg lenses, which are passive devices that make them appear on radar exactly like a real Jargon 2. By late 2025, roughly 1/3 of all Russian mass attack launches included these decoys. Defenders on the ground could not tell the real ones from the fakes until they either shot them down or watched them hit. Every missile and every interceptor drone fired at a decoy was a resource not available for the real attack wave flying alongside it. Ukraine could not get enough Patriots. It could not fire million-dollar interceptors at every one of the 143 Shaheds arriving per night. So it had to find a cheaper way to kill these things or lose its power grid and its cities to attrition. What Ukraine did next is one of the most remarkable examples of military innovation under pressure in recent memory. Ukraine built a layered kill chain from scratch. The foundation was not hardware, it was information. Ukrainian civilians, soldiers, and volunteer networks set up Telegram channels that tracked incoming drones in real time, crowdsourcing acoustic and visual sightings into a rolling public picture of exactly where Shaheds were at any given moment. That human sensor network became the backbone of a cloud-based common operating picture that fed targeting data to every layer of the defense simultaneously. Engineers studying downed Russian drones also discovered something alarming and then turned it into an advantage. The drones were using Ukraine's own cellular and Wi-Fi networks to navigate, hopping between mobile towers with inertial navigation systems when jammers cut the GPS signal. Ukraine began mapping those navigation paths and pre-positioning interceptors along the most probable corridors. The first hard kill layer was conventional aircraft. Ukraine began equipping its helicopters and jets with miniguns, laser systems, and machine guns, specifically to hunt Shaheds at night. That worked extremely well, with helicopters alone accounting for roughly 40% of drone kills by September 2025. Then Russia responded by mounting a surface-to-air missile on a drone to shoot the helicopters. So Ukraine had to adapt again. The second hard kill layer was ground-based mobile teams. Trucks with heavy machine guns, shoulder-launched surface-to-air missiles, and small arms positioned at key nodes along incoming flight corridors. The third layer, and the one that has now drawn the entire world's attention, was the interceptor drone. The concept was initially treated as ridiculous. You are going to send a small drone to chase and kill another drone flying at night in contested airspace. But Ukraine had no better option, and its engineers and its military had developed a culture that the 412th Unmanned Systems Brigade commander described explicitly as a startup culture. Fail fast, build new prototypes, test and scale, or put it in the box and move on. The first major interceptor was the General Cherry Bullet, known in Ukrainian as the Chereshnya. It takes off vertically and then pitches forward 90 degrees, flying nose first at speeds approaching 350 kilometers per hour. It carries a small explosive charge in its nose, but pilots report that the kinetic impact of a ram at that speed is often enough to destroy the target without detonation. The General Cherry Bullet had destroyed 548 Russian drones in October 2025 alone, and over 1,000 Shahed-type drones in total as of that period. The Sting, made by Wild Hornets, is a bullet-shaped quadcopter interceptor flown in a first-person view engagement, where the pilot wears FPV goggles and flies it like a racing drone. It closes quickly, kills via direct impact and a small explosive charge, and costs approximately $2,000. Lieutenant Colonel Pavlo Verkovod of the 25th Airborne Brigade captured the procurement logic of this weapon in one sentence. He said, "There is little point in shooting down 100% of the drones if the interceptor costs more than the target." The Octopus 100 was developed in cooperation with the United Kingdom under the Build with Ukraine initiative. It uses image recognition and onboard processing for terminal guidance, allowing it to track and engage targets even in heavy electronic warfare environments. Now, here is the critical performance limit that gets largely ignored in the coverage. All of these Ukrainian interceptors were built and optimized to catch the original Garand II flying at 185 kilometers per hour. The Sting flies at 315 kilometers per hour, which gives it comfortable closing speed on that target. The General Cherry Bullet reaches 350 kilometers per hour, which is also sufficient. But the Garand III flies at 400 to 500 kilometers per hour. The Garand V flies at 600 kilometers per hour. At those speeds, an interceptor flying at 350 kilometers per hour is too slow. Russia is aware of exactly where that ceiling sits because it reads the same data Ukraine publishes when it announces intercept statistics. Every time Ukraine announces that interceptors are responsible for 70% of Shahed kills, Russia calculates what it needs to do to reduce that percentage. The Garand III and Garand V deployments are a direct answer to Ukraine's interceptor success. The Shahed is not a precision weapon and was never intended to be one. Its real hit rate on individual targets is somewhere between 10 and 22%, depending on variant and conditions. But on strategic effect per dollar spent by the attacker, it is the most cost-effective weapon in the Russian arsenal. Ukraine's interceptor program reversed that equation locally. A $2,000 Sting killing a $35,000 Garand II at a confirmed 80 to 90% intercept rate is the defense finally winning the cost exchange. That is why the world is paying attention. That is why 11 countries have requested Ukrainian expertise. But the equation only stays reversed while the drone being intercepted is the slow propeller version. The lawnmower engine drone did not win any war, but it permanently changed what winning a war costs.